Hi there, and welcome back to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I am one half of your co-host, Joshua Crouch. Tersh is getting connected. He's at the new Flat Rate Conference. Looks like he's having a little technical difficulties. But today we are super excited with having a connection with Billy Stevens. We've been able to secure getting Landon Brewer on the show. And for you guys that know Landon, you know he worked with Gettle for a long time. I'll let him get into his background and stuff like that. But we are super excited. We have two guys who have been in the industry a very long time. They have been through recessions, even the Great Recession back in 07, 08, stuff like that. So they're going to bring a ton of really valuable insights to you guys. We're going to talk about how to trim the fat in your business, also how to prepare yourself and some of the different things that you can do. So that way, as you move forward with your business, you are efficient and you are driving a very profitable business, and you're focused on the number that really matters at the end of the day, your net, and not so much on your gross. So hopefully Tersh gets reconnected here. But with that being said, we'll get started with the show.
Are you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blissett and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Billy, Landon, welcome to the show.
Hey,
thank you for having us.
We're going to have to kick Tersh's thing out of here just for now until he gets that sorted out, so nobody has to look at that. Awesome. So again, super excited to have you guys on your land. And I think you've only done like one other podcast that I've found. I did a little research just to kind of see. So I really appreciate you coming on here. Everybody knows that when Landon posts something, it's usually very thoughtful and laid out. So if you could kind of take us as an overview of your history in the industry and why people follow you and why people listen to you, that would be great.
Wow. Thanks for the setup. That was fantastic. Yeah, I don't do a lot of podcasts. I also never will watch this. I'm sure I just can't stand seeing my face and hearing my voice for some reason on audio visual. But yeah, I why people follow me, besides lack of taste, I'm not sure, but I guess kind of my history in the space is really where that derives from. So many years ago, I got into this industry kind of by accident. I'm not a technical person. Quite frankly, if I refer to myself as an HVAC and plumbing guy, some of those guys probably get a little bit irritated because I'm clearly not as technically competent as almost anybody in the space. But I was a financial analyst many years ago, and I answered an ad in a newspaper for a confidential interview for a venture capital firm that was just started. And had worked for another one that was investing in .coms because I wanted to be this .com millionaire out of grad school, and that was just a complete disaster. It was right when the .com thing just tanked, and so I just picked up that's when you used to find jobs in the newspaper, I guess. And
you might be aging yourself a little bit with that comment.
So I was 4, and so this is still early 2000-ish. So answered ad in the newspaper, and the company at the time was called Venvest. They were building an organization. They had different holding companies, but the ultimate goal was to build the world's largest home services organization. And the guys that founded it were the guys that took Service Experts public. And thought, oh, wow. So they kind of laid out the business model for me. It's we're going to build these best practices groups. We're going to identify the best in the space, and then send people like me into that operation to, just completely dissect that operation and put it in kind of a business in a box, if you will, to make that available for contractors who don't historically have a lot of those resources. Then, we'll integrate the contractors that way. Then we'll make franchise offerings available and eventually roll them up, go public, sell, etc. Eventually that business was sold to a utility company, and now it's owned by Authority Brands. So it's the Clockwork franchise.
Sure.
And so I was became the director of half of the organization that helped the independent contractors, the non-franchise, non-company owned contractors, and with all of their growth efforts. And so I got to know thousands of contractors throughout North America, and got to help them, and just became kind of a big extended family over a 5 or 6 year period. And so that's how I got into the space. I never really anticipated staying in it, but I started looking at the financial models, looking what these guys are doing without any business experience, education, etc. I'm like, holy cow, this is a remarkably underserved industry that nobody knows about. I'm gonna make this work. And from there, I got connected with some other contractors and decided, I like to get into this. And so I've been a partner with a guy named Ken Goodrich for 15 plus years in various ventures ever since that. And so.
Was he part of that group? Is that how you got connected?
He was one
with
of the
him?
clients, of the PSI and Airtime group. And so I just got to know him then. And when I left there, originally he was going to get a work a deal with those guys, and that didn't work out. And so connected with him after that, and sold businesses to American Residential Services, ARS Rescue Rooter. And that brought me out to the West Coast because we had this 3-year earnout deal where we got to operate some of their underperforming businesses on top of what we had, and then keep the profitability difference between in that period. So we grew that business pretty rapidly and expanded it into different areas. This was a multi-branch business, kind of a division, if you will, of ARS Rescue Rooter, and pretty successful undertaking there. We did very well in our earnout, and that was actually the first time I operated inside a business, and so I kind of started ground floor, sales management, ran some big box programs, opened up a couple of locations, and just that's what we did. And then when that deal was up, we all kind of broke apart for a brief period of time, then got the band back together, got the opportunity to get Gettle, and tried initially to do our own kind of consolidation without any financial backing, and kind of elevated a whole bunch of businesses. Then most of those guys decided they didn't want to sell. So I said, well, Ken, I know that you always sell. So, let's go full board this way. And so we built Gettle, sold a majority stake in that business about 4 years ago. And then stayed on, continued to operate that business. And then last December, recapped where in private equity terms, we sold again to a new private equity sponsor and set some records there. But, basically from the time that we got a hold of it to the time that we did the recap, it was a $500 million enterprise value lift. And so it's been a fun ride, kind of building these different organizations over the years and monetizing them. And so now I'm, we'll call it retired, temporarily.
You're too young to retire.
Because that's all I know how to say, because I didn't quit and I didn't get fired. But I'm not working there anymore. I'm just still supporting in the background and rooting for them. But so now I'm interested in doing other things. I've connected with Billy and some of the innovative folks in our space, and just trying to kind of connect the dots to from our former state to our current state to our future state, where we're going, and what all of those connections look like, trying to build the next model.
Well, Billy told us before the show started that if you ever need work, you can be Sean McVay's stunt double. So I know he does a lot of like Campbell's soup commercials. So if you ever want to fill in on those and he's too busy, you always have a role there.
Hey, for a guy that only works 1 day a week, hey, that's a phenomenal role.
That's great.
So leading into that, where are we going? Where are we going from here?
Oh man, that's I think Billy's gonna have some insight on this, but I kind of think so that I've been a student of this game. Like when I first got into the space, I knew absolutely nothing about it. I just learned what I learned from watching thousands of contractors and figuring out what the best practices were and how this is supposed to look. But back in the day, it was some of these initial innovators. Like I kind of wish we would go back to those days a little bit. Now it's we had the guys in the space like the George Brazil, the Frank Blau, the Ron Smith, and some of these larger than life figures of people that I always looked up to and admired and would go to all the meetings and just chat their ear off just to see if they talked to me. And those guys were just in the business, grinding and building something that had never been built before. And we've kind of gone from that to like the era of weird social media-ness, which I'm going to leave that alone. But I kind of wish I'd go back to those days a little bit. But the evolution of the space is something that I've just loved. I think the evolution is going to continue to follow. It just completely parallels the evolution of the business tools, the business systems, the software, and the technology that's kind of enabled this growth, right? It used to be back in the day, if you had $1 million business and, you were crazy, you're doing something right. Then it was, man, if you could get to this $3 to $5 million, you're one of the top players. A $10 million business. Now it's like, all right, we're in the hundreds and, we're going to the billions. And so that pace, though, has been rapidly expedited over the last 10, 15 years. And I think it just is in complete parallel with the business tools, technology, systems, CRMs, things like that have enabled that. And so I think we just kind of follow that trajectory and we simplify the offering and figure out what the customers want and provide it to them more efficiently.
Yeah, I still remember the first HVAC company that I worked at. Paper, this was like 2013, paper invoices. We would put them in a box. If we had to follow up with any leads, I'd have to go back and look through technicians' notes, which notoriously technicians, I'm sorry, but your handwriting is not usually that great. And it was just like to put together some kind of analysis of what we were doing was very tedious. Now you can, with a click of a button, run a report and understand your margins, understand your revenue by technician, by CSR, all of these different things. And so you can actually pinpoint different things that you need to focus on in your business, which I know, Billy, you guys have been doing a lot of different stuff with this. So that way you can make it even easier to really hone down even on like the individual job level. What types of service calls, what types of installs do you guys really perform well at?
Yeah, so that's been a lot of our focus is how we dive down, actually all the way down to the tech level and their performance and helping them do a much better job. The whole idea behind helping the tech out in the field was to make a tech app that was actually linear, that would allow them to follow in a flow to get the consistency from all the tech so that your training would actually help everybody that was in the field because everybody was doing the same thing, if you will. Slight modifications based on personality, but at the same time, the flow of the call was always the same. And this is something that we put in Acera, right away, one of our main things that we did. The evolution of this space right now is the speed that it's moving at this moment is crazy. We are really moving up. We're a very large industry. I think our industry is over 400 billion and no one really even knew we existed. And, there's people out there chasing. Go ahead.
Well, can I ask a question? What happens if you're the small guy, like the really small, like when you're just getting started, are we going to be swallowed up?
Going to be swallowed up? I think the small guy will always have a place. I mean, there's always a place for the small guy. There's always going to be a place for those guys. Swallowed up means a couple of things. Are they just going to be run out of business because there's smarter players in their space now? Are they going to just die because they're not growing? Are they going to just quit and go join a larger group? There's a lot of ways that things can go wrong. But again, there's still that, Chuck in the truck that's going to have his customer base for the, the people that don't want to spend any money and get the value that they're looking for, that they need to be looking for. And so I don't see that changing all that much. What I see changing is the mentality of what we're chasing. All I see in this space is we're chasing revenue. The guys that are on these Facebook pages and stuff, they talk about revenue, but they don't really talk about the meat of the business. And that's what Landon and I focus on a lot. And that's what we focus on at Sarah is if you're a $3 million business and you think going to $5 million is the answer, it isn't the answer. It's totally not the answer because growth is expensive and the majority of these companies are growing broke.
We need like 2 technicians and we're solid.
Yeah. 2 technicians and you're solid, right? All you need is 2 technicians, 3, 4, whatever it is that you have. But what you have to do is get that money to the bottom line. That's what we're here to talk about is how do we get the money to the bottom line? Because when you look at a financial statement, there's a lot of money flowing through it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't get down to the bottom. And this is because of the business in itself, just the inherent business that we are in today and in the past is very difficult. It is very difficult to sell to sell an air conditioner, to coordinate buying that equipment, to getting that equipment on site, to getting the people to doing it the right way, to actually have the guy there that knows how to sell it or maybe flip it to a salesperson. There's a lot of moving pieces, and that involves a lot of people inside the organization. And that's where Sarah comes in and really does a really good job by automating a lot of that process. So when they do flip to a salesperson, it's handled. The schedule is there. Sarah has the schedule, makes the schedule for the salespeople based off of their ability to do the work and what jobs are out there. And this is what we've done is we've taken and simplified a lot of these things that create a lot of touches, as we say in the industry. The average service call has 28 touches in it by 4 different people. That's a lot of people touching one service call, and you multiply that times. It's just incredible how much work goes into just a service call, and that 28 touches is from the time the customer calls you to the time you collect payment. There's 28 touches by 4 different people, and we've eliminated those and knocked those down by about 90%. By allowing automation in the software to do the thinking and to do the interactions. One of the things we pride ourselves on are 2 things. We really knock down the amount of spreadsheets that people have to keep, so things like this. And we really knock down that dreadful inter-office email that we all experience. The larger the company.
I love spreadsheets though. Like I love getting that report every morning and just looking at Excel.
You don't look at it.
I don't. I really.
Yeah, right. And the thing about it is the inter-office emails are the worst part of owning these business. The larger they get, I mean, Landon can tell you this: the larger the company gets, the more inter-office emails there are. You're in so many different groups that at the end of the day, all you're doing is checking email, seeing which ones actually involve you realistically, and trying to find your way through on what you need to see and do. And then you're not out there actually helping your technicians or whatever department you're in. You're not able to do your job. And
I
so
literally
these are the things that we do.
I threaten my wife every time she CCs me on an email. Like, I do not need to know that. I don't care about that. Stop CCing me and stuff. Just in case you wanted to know. I'm like, well, I don't want to know that. Don't do it again.
So Billy, Landon, question for you guys. So obviously right now we've seen a dramatic rise since the pandemic. It probably was happening before the pandemic, but I think it escalated even more in the EBITDA numbers and the numbers the multiples that these companies are getting. Do you guys see that continuing right now, or have we reached a point where we're kind of maybe we're already past that point where we're kind of at the apex and now it's going to level out? Or what do you guys see and what are you guys hearing? Because I know you guys are both know quite a few people in the private equity space.
It's going to go forever. It's going to be 100x pretty soon. And any private equity company looking at this show right now, feel free to contact me, give me some equity, and I'll buy all this. This is amazing. Now, it's interesting. We have seen this kind of like rapid elevation of valuations of the business. It's because of what we talked about. Nobody used to know about us. Now all of a sudden some PE gets in and we become this, a hot commodity, and more PE gets in. And now the biggest PE firms in the world are in the space looking at this. And it's for very logical reason. I mean, we create a significant amount of cash on a COD basis. If you build a solid structural sustainable business, you can add resources to that business, and these guys are looking to get a return on investment. So they just add a little fuel to the fire. They can go out and acquire more businesses. They can embed a little bit more sophistication to secure the business, and they know that it will grow if you got the right team. So very solid ROI. And at this point, I'm not an investing guru, but where else are you going to park money? Better not have it in the stock market this year. Real estate, speculative, like a lot of these businesses are failing. It's like, hey, let's cue in on a fundamental, essential business that survived COVID, actually thrived through COVID, that is recession proof. That's just like, where are you going to find that? And I think they found it. And I think that's what's really driving this value.
Yeah,
Billy,
I agree with
anything
what
to add to
Landon
that?
said. I really agree with what Landon's saying on this situation. This is has a long run in it, and the PE firms are getting in there more and more often. And what's happening is these PE firms only have one lever to pull right now, and that lever is to accumulate. And they accumulate to get value, right? So as they add millions of revenue, they add more cash flow. And that's really the only lever that we all have up until this point. And that's where Sarah comes in, is because now we want you to pull multiple levers. We want you to be able to create more cash flow in the business, because that is what they're buying. Growing your revenue 10% is not as valuable as improving your margin by 10%. They're buying your margin. They're not buying your revenue. Yet this is, when they do an EBITDA deal, revenue's not in the EBITDA calculation at all. And so we need to focus on what actually affects EBITDA, is actually the proper way to say it. I apologize. And so EBITDA is just a form of cash flow. What is the cash flow of the business? And they're buying cash flow. We have not reached that point in our industry where they buy book. And what I mean by book, when we make that transformation, then we're going to see real money being paid for these companies. So think about it like this. Well, soon. I think we're getting closer. I think Gettle and what Landon and Ken have done is proven that we're getting closer to being paid by book. And
now, what does that mean?
So book means is now, instead of paying you for the cash flow, we're going to pay you for the amount of the revenue, and we're going to multiply it times that amount.
Why would we go to
why
would they go to
down
that
at the bottom? I'm sorry.
So why would they change that from EBITDA to book? What would make
because
that
there's
change?
Something we've never had in this industry before, and what these people all want, and it's called ARR, annual recurring revenue.
Okay.
So now
that's going to make it even more important. I preach
this every single time I'm on this show.
Yep.
Annual recurring revenue is memberships, and memberships will get you that book value at some point. It's how many memberships can you accumulate and have these customers paying you on a monthly basis or an annual basis a large sum of money. In the software space,
a paid membership, or because we've had this conversation on other episodes before as well. Like, is a value if we give away the memberships, or does it need to be $99, or does it need to be at least $199? Like, is there a threshold that the memberships need to be generating for them to be valuable, or is it just that person is under a quote unquote membership?
Well, if they're at $0, then your ARR is 0.
Okay, so that's how they value the ARR.
So paid membership.
Okay.
It's a paid membership. I recommend you start at $99. And until you have 500 members for every million of revenue, I stay at 500, I stay at $99. And then once you have reached that level of 500 or more memberships, I highly recommend you raise the price to about $199. And you increase that ARR that you're trying to have in your business. Not only do you do that, you get those customers to bond themselves with you. They're going to use you. You're going to get the first opportunity to do this. Let's take just a real quick math equation here. If you had 1,000 memberships, we know that about every 12 years, these air conditioners fail. So that's 8%. That's 80 air conditioners that are going to fail each and every year at a $10,000 average pop, let's say, for easy math. That's $800,000 of guaranteed book revenue for you. That's the value of these memberships. That doesn't include the repairs that are done, the pieces that have been replaced instead of the full system, and all
Or the
that.
referrals, the friends and family talking about how great it is that they don't have to worry about their AC system because they always have this company contact them and come out. Right. So we had a question from Ryan Matthews, and again, if anyone's watching this live, which looks like we have quite a few people on live, drop your questions below. We'll definitely try to get to them on the show here. But Ryan asked, what if the membership is losing you money? And I know your $99 membership is definitely not making you money, Billy.
Obviously. All right. So losing your money is a loose term, if you will. So for instance, if I sell a membership for $99, I haven't lost any money at all in that situation, right? I made $99 more than I made if I would have not sold one, right? Where the concept of losing money is now you've made an offering in your membership, and your offering may be, I'll give you a tune-up, a spring tune-up or a fall tune-up. I personally believe you only do one a year. Why go back twice? Once a year is fine. You get enough memberships, you do one a year, and you're doing a lot more zero tickets if you try to do them twice a year, is what I'm getting at. You do them once a year, you give them a heat or you give them a spring, however it works out when you book all of these calls, right? And what you do with these memberships is you're building up, number one, you're building up a base of cash that is ARR, right? Or MRR, however you want to do it, if you want to charge by the month or by the annually. And the concept of losing money is, I'm going to send a guy out to a customer's house, and if I don't know the age of this equipment, if I don't have any information on this equipment, I'm probably going to lose money. But if I know that when I have 1,000 memberships and 25 to 30% of them are over the age of 10 years old, which memberships do you think I'm going to go do tune-ups on? Which technicians do you think I'm going to send to those tune-ups? These are the information that you really have to know. And that's why we make it in our system, our air conditioning systems age as they have a birthday each year. It's very important that you really know what the age is. It can't be a static number. They have to age so that they can be properly rehashed. And so you can improve your loss, if you will, if you strategically set up your memberships to be ran with the calls, with the oldest equipment, with the best technicians, and keep them using those memberships year round. If you sell 1,000 memberships, you're selling a membership into a club no different than going to the gym. You don't have to go to the gym, but you still pay the membership, right? And so you don't have to go and do the 2-year-old system, the new system. You recommend it to the customer, but you prioritize the older equipment, and you keep your guys busy all winter long if you do fall tune-ups. And so you do some of them in the fall, you do different customers in the spring. The ones you know that you're going to have the opportunity to sell each spring, and the ones that you saw last summer that you think you need to go see in the fall. And so by doing this, you've spread your pool of buyers out there. The value of a membership is you now have trust. The customer now trusts you.
Yeah.
Right. And trust goes a long ways.
Let me ask you this. What's your thought on the giving a membership away for your diagnostic fee, or doing away with your diagnostic fee, but you charge $99 for every service call and they automatically become a member?
That's not selling memberships.
I know that. I'm just saying that's what I've heard this, and so I'm asking you about it. Landon, I don't know. What's your thoughts on it?
I mean,
Well, I think the essential question with the membership thing, and I agree with Billy, it's I've gone back and forth with this over time, and it was just about creating revenue and EBITDA. It's like, okay, let's focus on a core segment of the equipment that we know is going to be replaceable within a certain amount of time, and let's just focus on that, right? And let's charge whatever we need to charge, or give it away, or a reduced rate if you got old equipment. But my thinking on that's kind of evolved, right? So he threw out this concept of ARR and moving towards a model like that. And I think eventually that's where the industry is going to go. I think, quite frankly, everything that we do, like, I don't know about you guys, but my gym membership, my Netflix subscription, my haircut, everything is a monthly.
Everything's monthly,
right? So there's no, and it's because customers want that, right? That's how society has evolved. It's like no different from going from yellow page paper invoices and rotary phones to digital marketing, field service management, and smartphones, right? So I think the customer is going to start to demand that, and we're going to have to shift our model towards it. But how that happens is you got to be able to monetize data along the way. So your CRM, Sarah, is going to enable that. And it's not going to be today or tomorrow, but, I think at some point, a combination of that, membership, a warranty, a subscription-based payment, whether it's a lease, finance, et cetera, like a combination of things where it's just like worry-free. You don't ever have to worry about this breaking down. You don't have to worry about replacing it and getting a, surprise that all of a sudden you got to spend $15,000 tomorrow. Well,
we've seen that in Canada. Some of the largest companies in Canada do the leasing program. I don't know how much they do on HVAC. The water heaters, like almost all of them. Like you can't do water heater replacement.
Consumer demand, right? I think it's consumer demand, and our industry has kind of been historically slower to evolve in that direction, but slowly, we're combining these elements when we have a convergence of all these elements, a convergence of the software, a convergence of warranty, a convergence of subscription-based payment, a convergence of remote monitoring and diagnostics, so we can really be efficient at what we do. When that convergence comes into play, I think it's going to be all subscription-based, and that's all she wrote. So we have to be able to pivot, but in the meantime, we should be positioning our businesses with each of those items or widgets, if you will, to eventually be able to put it together. And when the model flips, we're ready to go. Today, the model is revenue and EBITDA, and there's continued interest by PE because they know that, hey, if we can get a platform and we can grow, we can add economy of scale, we can buy better, we can, increase EBITDA and valuation that way. But that's today's model. And then what they're doing is they're collecting labor, they're collecting customers, they're collecting at this large scale business that's never been done before. They know they can either own the labor or own the leads and the customers, right? So that's what's happening in the space right now with all of this PE. They're getting this big presence. So now that I got this massive database and I got all these club members, as Billy's talking about, if I want to say, you know what, electrical, roofing, siding, plumbing, we're going to add because we have this massive customer base of loyal customers that we can just bolt the stuff onto. So when you're talking about pricing the memberships, losing money, et cetera, it's like my question, what value are you providing to that customer? What services are you providing? Are you providing plumbing inspections? Are you providing this ancillary stuff? If that's the case, build out your value stack like you do with everything else and price it so that customers say it's a no-brainer. But yes, in many respects, even service is a loss leader, right, for replacement, because today that's where all the money is. But there's going to come a point where customers are going to say, man, do I really need to spend $15,000, $20,000 or just join the club?
So I want to ask you a question on that because we have speaking of convergence, we have a convergence of a lot of things happening in January of 2023. Yeah. New DOE updates, equipment updates, pricing is, we're talking 20, 30, 40% on equipment that people are hearing.
The
Inflation Act, which is, I mean, who's not going to want a new heat pump next year?
Yeah. The Inflation Enhancement Act.
Yeah, you're going to get it for free. So you don't have to pay for it, but everyone else does. But with some of that, are we going to get to that point? Because I see you guys see these tickets online and stuff like that, and it boggles my mind coming from a small Midwestern town. I see some of these $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 tickets, and I'm blown away. I think the biggest job we ever sold, because we had metal ductwork, so we didn't have to really do a lot with that, but it's like 20,000, 22, something like that. And I'm seeing these tickets. Tersh and I talk about this all the time. Like, holy crap, that would never work here. But are we getting to that point where all these price increases are going to drive it so high that service is going to start to become more important? More people are going to be waiting, especially with a quasi recession in mind.
And then the lack of equipment or the equipment shortages, and let's make your equipment last longer. That's we've talked to people before, and that's kind of what they're marketing. They're adjusting their marketing towards already.
This is the perfect time to change your model. You have to think about this because money's getting tighter. Interest rates are going up. Jobs are going to start falling off for these folks. They're going to want to repair. So build that relationship, sell those memberships. And then when it's time to replace it down the road, you get it as well. I mean, one of the things people don't realize is you can sell service work on a 70, 75% gross margin. You can sell air conditioners on a 50, 55, maybe, right? And the margins improve significantly if you do a much better job in doing your service work and preparing them for a replacement when it's time. It's about getting the money more than one time. And these memberships really help you do that. So we're having a big kickoff today. I got to leave here when this is over. I'm driving over to JB Warranties, and we're doing a big kickoff because we built this big warranty module inside Sarah that we're going to release here right around the first of next month. And the thing about it is it's another convenience for the customer. It's another source of ARR and MRR for the company. Is when you bundle warranties with memberships, you've increased your average ticket, and you didn't do any work at all. Neither one of those require any labor, but yet they can bring home to you on the average $300 or $400, right? And you didn't do anything at all. You sold membership, and then you sold a worry-free package of a warranty. And at some point, and in the very close near future, we're adding monitoring to this whole idea. And so you're going to have a perfect package of what a membership should really be. So let's think about it like this. Mrs. Jones, I'm monitoring your equipment. I can tell you when it's about to break before it breaks. We can alert you that we need to come out, or we can fix it from where we are. You're going to pay X dollars a month for this. And not only that, it's warranted. We know when the warranty expires. We know what warranties pieces are warranted. And we also have a membership with you. And all of a sudden, you're getting $200 or $300 a month out of these customers, and you're not doing anything. That's ARR and MRR, guys.
Wait a minute. So
that's what we're talking about here.
We can't glass right over this one. Is this going to be like an integration here? Like you just skipped right over this whole thing. Oh, by the way, we're just not going to talk about it. What is this? What are you talking about here? We got some monitoring software that's coming out. Is this going to be something that's already existing on the marketplace, or can you not tell me that until you actually release it? Or
we're not going to go into what we're doing with that just yet. But I will tell you this: the first phase
talk about
of
a
that
tease.
The first phase of that is warranties. And warranties is be bundled with memberships, and then monitoring being bundled with memberships and warranty. And now we've created a massive amount of ARR for your company. And now we're getting ourselves to book. Okay. If the people that are getting high multiples now are going to wish they would have got the multiples that are coming because of the businesses that are going to build this monthly recurring revenue and this annual recurring revenue.
I was getting ready to ask, did people sell too early? If they sold?
In my opinion, yes. I think there's way more to come.
And you're talking to one of the first guys that sold.
Right. Number one.
Time to buy it back.
You sold 10 years too early, Billy.
Actually, 11 years.
11
years ago. But you know what?
At that time, it was probably really good money, though.
Well, the thing about it is, like you said, if you had $1 million business back then, you had a business, right? But we had much bigger than that. But the point is, the whole idea 11 years ago was we saw the failure of the roll-ups. We saw the failure of all the other ways that people tried to put this together. And so I sit down with some very smart guys from San Francisco and the Seattle area, and we sit down and we just thought through this whole process. Why can't it be HVAC and plumbing and electrical and the trades, right? And so we started off, we did it. We used my company as the pilot company, the very first one to get into this with this PE backing. And the amount of money that was offered to me was way beyond the wildest dreams of what anybody could have ever thought about selling a company for. Right. And even if I didn't, and back then you didn't sell all of your company, you still held on to it, a good portion of the company. Right. And then that's when you go out, and then we started buying other businesses. And the thing about it is we were setting the groundwork and figuring it out as we go. Because I remember when we got our first business to buy, a substantial size business, I had to fly out to San Francisco and, give them my case on why this would work. I had to go, look, we had this opportunity. There's this plumbing company in Houston, they're doing about $7 million in revenue, I believe it was, or maybe, right around there, 7 or 9 million. I can't remember which, of revenue in plumbing only, no air conditioning. And I said, look, if we bolt on memberships with this thing, we'll be 40 million in 2 or 3 years. And guess what? I think the company's probably over 100 million now. And it started off with an idea, and an idea that we're like, memberships. And we did that from the very beginning. Memberships propelled this business. So we had the plumbers go out and they talked about the memberships, how we give you a tune-up. We're now doing air conditioning. And then it exploded. And that's why I always start my companies with plumbing first, because it's a low-hanging fruit. I can tell you right now, if you want to build a business fast, go plumbing, because the sophistication in plumbing is nowhere near what it is in air conditioning when it comes to marketing and doing all of these things. And plumbing is still quite a ways behind us. When you get on the plumbing Facebook groups, they're talking about their new pipe wrench. When you get on an HVAC, we're trying to learn how to improve our business. That's the difference. No offense to plumbers, but I'm being honest. What's that?
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying that this is why we feel like we're in the beginning of all of this, because there's a lot of companies that are not even to the level of some of the companies that are out there. And so we use memberships to build this big organization that we,
So so Billy, Landon, do you guys think, and you guys, I know you guys see different things going on in these groups and Ron, but do you?
I'm one too, Ron.
Full disclosure, Billy's a plumber.
I got a master plumber's license. I don't know the first thing about air conditioning, so that's my story.
Do you think with oh shoot, I lost my question now, but I gotta look at the comments here are making me laugh because Leslie's thinking you're taking a shot at her. She's a plumbing company.
So am I.
Yeah.
So
with this, what we're talking about. Go ahead, Tersh.
Can I ask you, Josh?
Yeah.
I want to point out the fact that Billy has some amazing plumbers on his team, like next level stuff I've never even heard of listening to him talk. So just keep that in mind. Like there's something there for sure. Like I'm not profitable with plumbing. I mean, I'm profitable in the stuff that we do, but we get a lot of calls. We get a lot more calls a lot easier from plumbing than we do. It doesn't take
plumbing's a lot more consistent, like from a search volume basis. Like plumbing is very consistent almost all year. HVAC obviously has it's like this. So if you can add plumbing to your business somehow or merge with a plumber, talk with, figure out the licensing thing, you can definitely stay more consistent. That's why a lot of these big companies, the ones we see online, they all have added plumbing. They stay busy. They stay in the house. But what I was going to say, Billy, and Landon, you can chime in on this too. Do you think contractors think too deeply about how to present their membership? Like, I feel like people get stuck because they want to have like this VIP and this like super deluxe, crazy good plan with all of these benefits and features. And it's just like, it's simple. It's one price.
It is so simple, guys.
This is what you get. Go sell it. Keep it simple.
Don't
people buy simple.
With multiple memberships. That's not what we need to be doing here. What we need to be doing is gathering. We need to be gathering. And to do that, you have to simplify the process and make it an easy to understand membership and the value. And don't overvalue it. I don't recommend at all that you flush a water heater. I say you charge for that. You don't offer that as a perk, That is a very good way to take money off the table.
Hey, Billy,
Yes.
what would you define a next level plumber? I know what I would, but I don't want to share your information.
What would I find as a next level plumber?
Define.
Maybe in
What would you
terms of like
say?
revenue production or
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So to me, a good plumbing truck is about 750 in revenue annually. To me, that's a good plumbing truck, and sprinkled in that, a couple of plumbers that are doing $1 million, maybe a 2 million. And that to me is the next level plumbing. I see so many
Yeah.
plumbing companies that struggle to get to $250,000 per truck.
Yeah.
And
And one
it really comes back down to the simplicity of it all and showing the value and doing all the things that we try to show you to do when we bring you on board with our software. And this is how you build these plumbers. And you incentivize these plumbers. And I've got plumbers making, a couple $100,000. It's amazing what can happen. I've got AC guys going, okay, I want to sell plumbing in the winter. Right? It's so lucrative, and I've got a couple of AC guys coming out to one of the shows this week, this month actually. And they're going to talk about that. They're going to talk about how they can cross sell right inside the house. They don't need to know plumbing, but even our HVAC techs are doing that, and our plumbing guys are doing that as well. And they don't know the first thing about what they're talking about, but they set up the call for that AC tech to come out, and vice versa.
Can I ask both of you, Landon and Billy, a question? So what I've noticed from plumbing, homeowners believe they know more about plumbing than they do HVAC. So there's like that barrier to entry to get in the home. And then when they price things, usually like when I look through reviews and stuff like that, I do notice that plumbing companies, especially if they're priced appropriately, they get that company's really expensive type of thing. Are there because I know we have some plumbers that are listening, obviously, and making comments and asking questions, anything of value when they're in the home that maybe they can be doing differently versus maybe they're too narrow looking at something, or other ways they can provide value during these plumbing inspections or looking at a leak, something like that you guys have trained your plumbers to do?
All right. What I'm going to tell you guys, we do it every week. We practice. And this is a very simple thing to do. And the number one thing that you can do in the first process is, how do you get 3 or 4 yeses before you even look at the job? Right. And that is the first thing. And it's as easy as, when you knock on the door, is asking them if you parked your truck in the right spot, and you get your automatic yes here. Right. Next question you ask is, do you mind telling me? My dispatcher has told me what's going on. Do you mind, in your own words, telling me what your problem is? Now you got the customer to buy into this situation, right? So now you're listening to them. I know there's some ladies watching this, but I want to tell you, if your technicians go out to a home and the wife is the one, or the female in the house is the one, all you have to do is listen to them. And if you don't overtalk them and you listen to them, they're going to buy from you, because unfortunately the kids aren't listening. The husband isn't listening. Everybody's too busy. It's all about look her in the eye and listen to her, and give her good opportunity, show her good value. But get those 3 yeses. It's as easy as, do you mind if I put on my shoe protectors and step inside? Well, sure, you can. It's a yes, though. We're conditioning that customer to say yes to us. And that's really all we're doing. And what I train my guys to do is, if you can possibly go to the kitchen sink or any sink in the house and pull the aerator off and show them the debris in that aerator, that leads you to the water heater, because the minerals are in that aerator, right? This is what you have to do. And if you can get in front of that water heater, now you know how old of a water heater you're dealing with, right? But if you walked in and go, oh, I see you're having a problem with your toilet, can I look at your water heater? No.
That's weird. It's in the attic.
It's as easy as that. And so what we're doing is, we're doing a whole house walkthrough after that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and clean all these aerators for you. We don't ask for the walkthrough. We involve them in the call. And then once we involve them in the service call, the trust is built. You're allowed to go and check everything. You go and you clean out the aerators. Maybe you pop off a couple of P-traps in the lavatories in the kitchen sink, and you show them how bad it is, and you clean it up for them. That's value.
Billy, you say pop off P-traps. Well, I've been underneath the sink before, and I ain't popped one back on. Those things are a pain. And I'm not a plumber, but geez, you talk about that like it's a piece of
What are you
cake.
putting down your drain, Tersh?
That's a topic for a different episode. So,
Lan, you were going to chime in there.
Yeah, I would say, I'm like a systems and data guy, right? So I think you got to be able to quantify everything in the business, right? And so one thing, to go back to your earlier question I didn't answer about the contractors overcomplicate. They overcomplicate everything. They tend to overcomplicate everything.
Yeah.
And even with their technology and some of this stuff they embed, or the CRM, like even some of that overcomplicates the business and doesn't simplify and streamline, right, and make more productive and efficient. But if you're having a challenge with performance out of the technicians, right, you always start at the system. So your system for running a service call, your system for converting sales, it should result in an expected outcome. And when it doesn't result in the expected outcome, you've got the data that's showing you that. You have to have visibility into that system and see, what did they miss? Where did it go wrong? Where did they go awry? And so I think the key there is, and at one point we kind of adapted the model and everybody uses this buzzword now, call by call manager. Have you heard this? So,
yeah, we've heard it.
So, it's everybody is now a call by call management expert, but nobody even understands the origin of it. Right.
Did that originate with y'all? Or, I mean, that's where I heard it.
To me, there's no original ideas, right? Like it didn't just originate somewhere inside my head. I'm sure it's like it originated somewhere. But I don't know that anything is
such a humble way of accepting it. Yes.
No, I'm serious. It's like, what does Elon Musk say? He says something like patents and copyrights are just for ego, right? So, but yeah, so the kind of the origination was, the old model was you had a service manager, an ops manager that was managing a bunch of techs and trying to coach them and train them and hold their daily meetings and put up their numbers. And that's kind of the extent of the training, maybe some technical training, right? And then it kind of evolved into communications training, and he added maybe a sales manager or somebody. At one point at a company, my job was to be the communications manager, teaching people how to talk to customers, right? And so we're like, okay, as the business scales, you got now 15 technicians, you can't have just one or two guys helping, right? You have to have kind of a dedicated person that has a span of control, like 7 to 10 guys at max, that you can hawk the schedule every single day, make sure that, if it's not, the right tech is on the right call. They understand the history. They've gone through the call. They're following the service call protocol that you've outlined, and you're verifying that, and you're helping them walk through the call, right? And so it should result in an expected outcome. So the idea for this call by call manager was like, hey, we just need span of control to help the technicians convert at a higher level. And so I need, one throat to choke instead of 10 or 30, right? For if there's lack of performance in the business. So if you design the proper system and you're looking at the data, you should be able to quantify real quick. Man, I got a guy that's doing 280,000. He's supposed to be on pace to do 480,000. There's 200,000, or even like, hey, I had 4 calls yesterday, 3 didn't convert. Okay, well, why? Well, when you go into a meeting like that, they're like, well, this lady was this, or a recession, or this price. It's complete just conjecture and not quantifiable. So, the objective of that role, or the objective of technology, where we're going with technologies, you'd be able to pinpoint exactly what's happening on the call. What step did you skip? Did you not do this? Did you not do this? And this whole system that Billy's talking about, going around the house, popping off the aerators and getting to the water heater, should be step 1. This is what I do. Step 2. This is what, it's just part of a process. And then if you need help getting through that process, there's somebody there, call by call manager, revenue manager, senior tech supervisor, whatever you call that person, to guide you through that process and yield the result you're looking for.
Sorry, I got some vacuuming going on in the back. Our 11-year-old's cleaning the house. So I apologize if it's a little loud. But so we talked a lot about memberships. Hang on one second.
That's the whole reason why you have kids, honestly.
Make them work. She's got fall break, so I apologize for that. So we talked a lot about memberships and the value and some of these things with the recession in mind. Billy, I know you go through a lot of P&Ls. Landon, obviously, this is right up your alley. This is like what you do, financial analysis. Where do you guys see a lot of companies have extra fat in their business, things that they can start to trim, things that they should really, if they haven't, because let's look at it. Since 2000, maybe 10, it's been pretty easy to grow in-home services. It's been very good. Like until recently, it's been a very good industry to be in. Now everyone's going to start maybe tightening the belt a little bit. Where do you guys see a lot of potential for companies to start increasing that bottom line, even if they don't add any additional revenue?
If I may start with this one, Landon, I do see a lot of financial statements, and I'm a believer that you pay your tax as much as you can possibly pay in. That's how you get really good tax, and that's how you continue to grow your business. However, I don't expect you to pay the technicians more than the company can even make, or their own. I remember back in the mid 90s, early 2000s, the big thing was spiffs. Get spiffs to get our guys to do that. So spiffs and extra commissions for this or bonuses for this, all that does is add to your labor cost. That's all it does. And with proper training and proper support, you can get everything done and more without having to pay stuff that costs you more than it should. I mean, if a guy accepts a job, it's his job to do the job, right? Now it's your job to create culture and build the processes to help them be successful. But spiffs and these extra little commissions here and there, we talked about complicating businesses. I've seen pay systems that take an entire week for people to figure it out, right?
Done that.
I see this every day. And it's because they have all these different things for this and this and this and that. And it's just like memberships. You've got to simplify the system. And so what this creates when you have all these different ways of paying and all this stuff going on, you create distrust between you and the employees because they can't figure out what the heck they're making because it takes you a week to figure it out. And then you got to give it to them. And then they'll spend 2 to 4 hours of their day. This is the number I hear. A technician will spend 2 to 4 hours of his day trying to figure out if he got screwed or not on his pay. If you got a complicated system with all of this crazy stuff in it. And that is really what I see the most. And I'm seeing labor rates in the 30%. And it's because of these type things. Now, how can you pay your technicians, 20% and they make more money than they did at that 30%? That's the key. And you do that through support, culture, training, and providing them with the things that they need. If you have plumbers and cameras are a big way for you to make money, don't have one camera. Go and buy a camera for every truck, please. And then take it one step further.
Have you ever seen what they do to my tools in the back of the truck? Like, because some cameras, they ain't cheap. So,
well, and that's the guy you either train up or you ship out.
Train out.
Right. This is the things that I'm telling you. These are things that waste time and money. Oh man, who's got that camera? I don't know what to do on this job. You know what I mean? Go and buy a camera for everyone. Same thing with your AC techs. Give them all the tools that they need so they're not looking for anything. Give them what they need and then support them and help them be successful. And if you do that, you can lower your labor rates. You can get rid of all this complicated stuff. And as soon as we built our pay system that I share with all of the people that grid on Sarah, we simplified these businesses so much that a technician knows what he's making after he's finished with each job, and he doesn't even have to think about it. It's just so simple, and it's so lucrative for him as well and for the company. And we don't offer spiffs. We don't offer all of that stuff.
So not
but
even
I guarantee you. Go ahead.
They sell us. You don't offer a spiff.
I don't. That's part of their job. I'm coaching them on how to do it and what the value is of selling that. Right?
Billy's he's talking right to me because that's that's the problem. That's how I've always felt. Like that's your job, do it. But then I'm being told, well, Gen Y and Gen X, that you can't talk to them like that. You have to You have to.
There's no forceful talking about it. It's the same thing I said earlier about talking to Mrs. Jones at the house. They just want to be heard. And if you'll actually listen into your guys, you'll figure it out you'll figure it out. And if you're
Man.
trying to run it, and if you're not, and most things what happen as they complicate these businesses, they rely on their employees in the office and stuff to manage all these things. And they're just flying around in circles, trying to come up with all the answers, these spreadsheets, all these things you want them to do. And they're not supporting the techs out in the field. If you just get rid of all that mess, simplify your business, start over again, and build a culture where everyone in that company supports the people out in the field that make us the money, that pay our rent, for all of us, then you're going to have a successful company, and you're going to start getting that $750,000 truck like you're supposed to be getting. And their guys are going to be happy. They're not going to leave. They're going to bring in more guys. They're going to make recommendations.
Hey, what kind of truck costs you $750,000?
They don't
that's what
cost
they
me
make,
that. That's
bring
the
in.
revenue.
I'm just kidding.
I'll add to what Billy said there, because I think a lot of what he's saying is built around productivity and efficiency, right? So instead of focusing, I think, on what should you cut, what's the old saying, you can't save your way into multi-millions, right? I know I've tried. I live my life that way, but there's so much inefficiency built into the operations of most of these businesses. Like even the most successful, even the biggest private equity firms out there, they have massive opportunity for upside just by simplifying and focusing on the data, of the business. So if you think about it, the 28 touches that Billy was referring to, first of all, if anybody touches me 28 times and I don't invite it, I don't like it. But second of all,
That's definitely not me.
second of all, I'm like, think of the metrics of your business. So you pay all this money, right? And you're not tracking the ROI on every bit of money that you're paying to generate your leads, right? So you got, significant opportunity to reduce your lead cost, customer acquisition costs, et cetera, by dialing that in. Then you generate these calls, right? And in many businesses, it's anywhere from 60 to 70% of the calls get booked. Some people, they target 80%. Some people are now targeting 90%. But there's significant inefficiency in call capture, right? Just because of how it's being managed. So let's say you can increase marketing effectiveness by 5%. You increase your call booking by 5%. You reduce your cancellations and reschedules by 5%. You increase your conversion rate by 5%. You increase your average ticket by 5%. You do all of those things, and you just made millions of dollars on any business, right? And you didn't have to do anything else. But there's so much inefficiency built into this business that if you just tweak every little thing, but you have to have a system and you have to have the data to see how effective you are at tweaking your systems. If you just do that, you don't have to worry about cutting. But you should plan for it, because the recession that is pending or here or coming, it may or may not be the same one as we experienced back in the 07, 08 that Billy was talking about, which I was in the midst of my earnout then, and we grew the business then. But we saw the other thing that we didn't talk about is the availability of credit. So the availability of credit is a big thing in recessions like this, where the third-party financing companies are like squeezing the credit requirements, and people that may have lost their job or lesser jobs, they're not getting the credit required to meet the increasing cost, right? So that's another factor. So going into the last one, thankfully we didn't have to use much of it, but we built specific repair packages and options for completely restoring and renovating units, right? And saying, hey, this is if you want to do the whatever it is, $2,500 restoration package, we can do that today, whatever you can afford today. And then if your situation changes, you can get credit within the next 12 months, and we can apply today's repair to that at that point in time now. But let's at least get you as solid as possible now. And just building up things like that, being prepared when you can't get customers financed, you can't do these things. You have to tweak and incrementally improve all those elements of your business. And you got to go out and expand. The best time to expand your business is in the midst of a recession.
Right, because I think when it's a repair versus replace, obviously a lot of people this day and age, we're used to throwing stuff away, right? Well, let's get the new thing because it's not going to have any problems. But as things tighten, making sure that the downsell is still profitable for you, so that way, you may not be able to get this system, but this is what we can do for you today. And that still makes good money for the company. You still hit your margins. You still do everything that you need to do to run a profitable business, which I think very few people look at as an opportunity. And it's like, oh, that's not fun and exciting to build. I want to build that ultimate 5-star, whatever the hell you want to call it, package where it's got all the bells and whistles. But how many people are actually going to buy that? You spend all your time on building that stuff, and there's 5%, 10% might buy something like that, instead of something that is more to the masses of your customer base.
Yep, absolutely. You should never, people that plan to lose money. I don't get that. There's people that they have this loss leader that plan to lose money in certain months. It just doesn't compute with me. You should never plan to lose money. It's like, I'm going to plan to fail for the next 9 months and then hope that, I can make up for it. And I see businesses doing it all the time. It's crazy.
So
Landon,
go ahead, say about a maintenance agreement, is that not a loss leader, Landon, or is it a tool to get? I mean, technically, I guess the definition of a loss leader would be something to get your foot in the door.
I guess the question is digital marketing a loss leader? You spent money to market to get that customer, right?
Yeah.
I guess technically everything that you invest into.
I'm not going to put that in my brochures.
is buying a set of gauges a loss leader? You're spending money on it, right? It's an investment into growing.
It's investment.
Okay. All right.
That's maybe the word that makes a little more sense. Landon, I want to ask you a question because you talked about data points, and I find that even with some of the softwares out there, like contractors don't know their basic data. Now, I know there's a lot of data points. Could you go through maybe like the top 3 or top 5 that they really should start focusing on first if they want to start focusing on the efficiency of their operation?
Yeah, so there's like the 30,000 foot view of KPIs that you can then dive into each metric and figure out what's happening, right? And to this point, like I was saying earlier, we have technology now that works with Sarah and CRMs that you can actually follow along what's happening in the field and pinpoint where you're going off course. But from a 30,000 foot view, if you wanted to break down into your budgeting and planning, what are the metrics that you can have a big impact on, right? So I look at blended average tickets for single call. So every time we go out and we run a call, just a couple of things can happen. Either we can don't sell anything more than the diagnostic fee. We can sell a repair. We can set a lead for a replacement, sell a replacement, sell a membership. That's all that can happen, right? But at the end of the day, every time you run a maintenance call, every time you run a demand call, it will result in a specific number, right? So I like to target, at a minimum of $2,500, $3,000 now for every demand call that we run on HVAC, for example. On the maintenance side, it's closer to $1,000. So 30,000
that's your target for every.
Yeah. That's blended average. If he turned into a replacement, he's taking that number with it.
So 30,000 foot, if you put everything together, right? So you look at that. I think you got marketing metrics that you look at that are super important. I think you look at your booking metrics and you make sure that, hey, you spent the money. You have to book these calls. So I think first piece is, hey, am I booking 85, 90% of the viable calls, right? Minimum. Then once we get the technicians out in the field, what are they going to yield back in return? And that's kind of the 30,000 foot view. And then you can diagnose. So if you're not hitting those metrics, okay, is it you have too many zero tickets? Is it that you got kids distracting you in the background? Is it that you got
in their jammies at 12:30 in the afternoon?
It's and a lot of times it's that you're not setting the correct lead, following the correct process to yield a conversion to replacement. And so you just become a master of the data behind your business. And a lot of the softwares out there make data available. But just like these businesses, a lot of the software also overcomplicate the data. So you got to be able to dive into the data points that you need that can really move the needle in your budget, your business.
So let me ask you a follow-up to that. So a lot of contractors start their businesses because they were either great at sales, they love service, they're great installer, they've been in the field. right? That's the majority of contracting business. Not everyone comes from like a financial analysis. I came from the financial world. They're more like Tersh. Tersh was a technician, general manager for a number of years, and he wanted to start his own business. They don't necessarily love looking at numbers. Looking at numbers makes them probably want to do something else. What do you recommend? What do you recommend for those businesses? Maybe they're getting into like the $2, $3, $5 million mark. They know they need to know their numbers, but they don't really want to dive into that. Is there a way that they should go, a consultant? Where do you go from there to start understanding stuff so they can understand the things that they need to know and take action versus actually diving into the data?
Yeah, I would say that just because you don't like it doesn't make you immune from having to do it, right? A lot of technicians may not like having to, if part of the protocol is putting out door hangers or, whatever, they don't like it, but you got to do it. It's just part of necessary course of business. So you have to become a student of the business and the numbers. You don't have to get uber granular, but you have to have data-driven decisions in your business. If you don't make decisions based on the data of the business, you're making it based on feel or based on what, your technicians are telling you or you're hearing on the street. Like it's all noise. It's fake news, as they like to say, right? It's all fake news is what you get. And the real news and the truth and the logic is in the data. So if you got to at least become a basic student of what is, the elements that are in your financial statements, what's a balance sheet, understanding your cash, what goes into your P&L, and then just the basic operating KPIs, productivity of your technicians, what they're doing in the field. You have to understand how all those things work together and how you can tweak them to make an improvement in your financial results. Now, you can get a lot of help with that. There's groups, there's coaches, there's your CRM, like a lot of tools available for you to do it. Even the social media groups. I get people asking me questions all the time, sending messages back and forth. I'm happy to answer those questions because that's what these businesses are. And most people don't realize that going in.
No, that's a great point. And
you've heard me say a couple of times, if I could pipe in here real quick.
Of course.
So you've heard me say several times on this show that, there's PIs and there's KPIs. And PIs are just performance indicators. And those performance indicators need to affect the real KPIs. And in my opinion, there's 4 KPIs. And just like Landon said, everything that he's doing is leading towards these 4 KPIs, these main KPIs. And what you need to affect and to make a difference in your business is your margin. Your PIs need to improve your margin. It needs to improve your memberships, right? That's a KPI that you really need to pay attention to. And then the cash flow in the business. These PIs need to help you improve these. And the ultimate and the 4th KPI that you really need to pay attention to is the efficiency of all of these things. And get rid of the inefficiencies. Learn what's efficient and helps your business improve these KPIs, and get rid of the inefficient things that don't really help you do this. And that goes back to simplification, right? It's simplifying the business, making it easy to run, making it easy for everyone to understand, making it easy to go look at this stuff, because it isn't fun. It's not fun to go look at this stuff. But it becomes fun.
Billy, I love looking at Excel spreadsheets.
I do too. That's what I'm getting at. When you first get into this, it's really not that fun because you're just getting started and you got to do all the work. But when you see the results, it's really fun. And it's very enlightening and very satisfying to see that you're actually affecting these in your financial statements month by month, because ultimately that financial statement is the KPI. It is the only.
I agree with you 100% because but with confusion or maybe the overwhelm as a business owner, I feel like becomes, okay, well, I'm getting these reports every day, every week or whatever. But now what? Like, what do I do now? Like, what margin am I supposed to be at, or what membership am I supposed to be at? We know, like earlier you said 500 per and go up on your pricing. But what should my cash flow be? Should I have a safe amount? Like is a month's worth of cash flow safe? Is 3 months? Is 6 months? Is there too much cash in the bank period? And I guess that's a question. that get asked all the time.
All right. So talking about cash in the bank, cash flow, and things like that is definitely a great topic and a great question. And really and truly, think about how our businesses are. This goes back to what Landon said earlier, why he stuck to this industry instead of going back into the finance world. What business can you get in today with relatively no money, right? Just your experience. And then what business can you get in today that you don't have to go buy a convenience store, a building, or do all these things and get paid that as soon as you're finished doing the work?
Hopefully, unless
The
you're a massive AR.
and this is what we've lost, and as we build our businesses and make them more complicated, we forgot how actually easy and simple it is to run one of these businesses, because it's very low entry to barrier. You get paid when you're finished. You don't do accounts receivables. Neither one of my businesses had $1 in receivables.
He looked right at you, Tersh, when he said that.
I know. I could
couldn't
feel him
tell.
staring right into my soul.
Receivables. So 60% of the businesses that go out of business were making money. The receivables killed them, and they went out of business, but they were making money. You don't do receivables. You COD, credit card, finance, period. You do not do any receivables. Your receivables are 3 days, I imagine, in most credit card situations or finance situations. 72 hours until you get the cash, right? That's how you sustain these businesses. And that's how we get, this is how I want to say that we get lazy. Because we get lazy because we get the cash soon.
Yep.
And so we can smother the problems, right? You can slow pay a vendor to make your payroll, but that's okay, because you're going to get some cash in the next 3 days, and then you can pay your vendor, even though
Yeah, you steal from Peter to pay Paul.
That's right. And that is where we get lazy. And then we try to fix it with all these ideals that we feel like are going to make the businesses work better. And then all we're doing is robbing the money from ourselves. And it's not going to the bottom line anymore. And so we get lazy because of the simplicity of the business of how it started. And if we can get back to that simplicity of, hey, I'm going to go do a job and I'm going to get paid for that job. And if we stick to that, and we build our business around that concept, which is the easiest concept in the world for a business. I mean, think about it. I started in the software business, and it took us 3.5 years before I first got my first dollar. I spent millions of dollars in the first 3 years. That's not an HVAC business. I can open up in the morning and do a job and be in business and have money tomorrow morning. As soon as I open it up, I can figure out a job to do. And basically, I just got to walk down the street and talk to one of my neighbors. They'll need something, right? And then now I'm getting paid.
Go pull their disconnect.
And yeah, that's what you wear that belt for, with the chain loops. You get all the disconnects connected to it. So that's really what we're trying to talk to you guys about here, is how do we get back to the basics so that we can move forward and get rid of the complicatedness in your business. And stop doing all of these things that cost us money and rob us of the money that we're already making. There's a lot of money that can be made in a $1 million, $2 million, $3 million business. There's a lot of money that can be made in a business that size. You don't have to get the 5 million to make money. In fact, it's harder to make money at 5 million. But if you could get a 25% net on a $3 million business, that's $750,000 a year. That's enough money to pay payments on new vehicles. That's enough money to pay you $300,000-$400,000 a year. That is what we need to be chasing, is the simplicity of the business, and bring all this money back to where it belongs, is in the bottom line and in the company. We practice this at all times when we talk to our clients. This is what we do at Billy Go. And Billy Go is just there to test our software before we release it. But it has become an incredible business. Over 26 million in revenue in the first 4 years as a test dummy, right? Probably going to move over $11 million this year, but that's not what I'm going to brag about. What I want to brag about is we're going to do about a 29% net on $11 million.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
a lot of money.
And that's not even that big considering like some of the Gettles of the world. Some of these other businesses are 50, 100, 150 million. And, you know, at 11 million, you're clearing 3 million, some rough math.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
And I'm doing that without being a high cost. We sell our equipment at around a 52% gross margin. So I'm not out there charging $25,000, $30,000 for whatever, you know, I'm out there selling equipment at a fair price and making the money. And I'm putting all this money to the bottom line. And it's because I simplified the business and I know my numbers. And this is exactly what Landon and I do. You know, we talk about numbers all the time and business practices all the time. And that's why we wanted to do this show together, because right now is the time that you need to start thinking about this. This exorbitant cost of running your businesses has got to stop. You got to look at everything and analyze it. Now, don't cut costs we're not asking you to cut costs. We're just asking you to get smarter at it. Improve every little thing a little bit is really what we're asking you to do. Work on the little things, get that improved. Work on the next one, get that improved. And you'll start seeing the money come to you and the revenues, believe it or not, when you get your guys trained, your people in the office trained, support, the culture going in the right direction, the average tickets go up.
So
right?
Would you say that we're over subscribing to things like too many subscription plans, or do you think that that's a necessary evil to have lots of different subscriptions, softwares and stuff like that?
Well, I think there's a bells and whistles thing going on, right? I think everybody, let's chase a shiny new object. Let's chase bells and whistles. Let's go after this automation or this, AI feature, this, direct consumer e-commerce site. Like that's all bells and whistles. If you don't have the blocking and tackling down, you shouldn't move to the bells and whistles because it's a shiny new object, even though it's very tempting, right? If you don't have a systemized business that is run based on very simple data of, this is what it costs to generate a lead. This is how I book the lead. This is what the result is when I run a lead. And I have a consistent, predictable business every single day. Everybody's doing the same thing, consistent, predictable business, hitting the right margins that you're looking for. You shouldn't go out and add the bells and whistles. It just complicates life. Now, if you've got that consistent thing and you want to go out and say, I want to become an e-commerce king and I want to go out and do this, and maybe it'll be an addition to this, or I want to go add this other verticals of the business and it'll be an addition. Don't add stuff until you perfected the basics and keep it simple. And the one thing that I will say that I see all the time is that just from a functional perspective of every employee, you go into these businesses, even high-performing businesses, and everybody's kind of like, it's like a fire drill, because this guy doesn't show up for work, or this customer is calling to complain, or this guy, have to run warranties over here, or this guy, didn't get paid right and got to deal with that. And all of these crazy fires that are being put out instead of a focus on the core tenets of your business. Like I've done this where I've just gone into the business. I'm like, okay, let's draw out. Here's what I do. Every 15 minutes of the day, this is what my responsibilities are. And I'm just going to stick with that for a month and embed that consistency in the business. And it's amazing how quickly that business elevates when you keep focus. And so the consistency for a business of any size, consistency is what matters almost more than anything else.
So you're saying my ADD is not helping me here?
No,
probably not here.
I just like that you mentioned blocking and tackling after we made the Sean McVay reference. I seriously think you can pull it off. Should we just try fly out to LA for a day? Let's just, Sean, take a day off. We're going to put Landon here and just see if he can coach the team.
But it's so often that we're told or we're sold on the fact that we need these extra items, these extra things to make us more efficient. Am I wrong?
Does more mean less?
There are
things I'm not going to disagree on. There are some things that you need to have. There are things that I think can help a business that are out there in the marketplace right now. I agree. There are some things, but then there are a lot of things that just cost you money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
And that's what
And
you need to
time, too.
decide.
They make you a lot
Right.
more busy.
Money and time.
Yeah.
And if you can just start, like Landon is saying, spend 15 minutes on trying to simplify one little thing in your business. Just simplify one thing. And then once you stay on that until you get it done, do the next thing. And by the time we get back into the spring of next year, you've simplified this business. You've got your arms around it like you never had before. And then now the money that you're going to make this summer is going to be extremely big money, right? Because you are priced better and you're prepared for it.
Can you define simplify? I mean, simplification versus efficient may not necessarily be the same thing.
Yes. So they're two different things. Okay. And from my experience of visiting with so many companies, the older they are, the more complicated the businesses have become. And I'm seeing this all the way up through the
reduced steps in processes.
Reduced steps, reduce roles. We have our employees doing so many different roles.
Yeah.
That
28 touches.
We're automating that stuff out so that they can focus on building. I want everyone to work on the business, not just the owner. Used to go, hey, Mr. Owner, quit working in the business and start working on it. Well, really the true thing is, how do we get every employee to work on the business? Right? That's what we're trying to say here. That is what we're trying to do here. We're doing that through just looking at what you're doing. Did it complicate something? Did my payroll system complicate this way up? The guys are being paid, and the time that my department managers are spending, 8 hours a week figuring out this payroll, maybe 16 hours a week figuring out this payroll, and then they turn it over to the payroll department, and they've got 24 hours to get it processed so they can get everybody paid. And then the pay stubs comes to the guys, on Friday or whatever, electronically. And the first thing he's doing, he's pulling his truck over and he's going through it. Where did they get me? Right? I got to figure this out.
I think if you went to all the employees in your business and you just asked them a simple question, what is it that you do, that we do, that is overcomplicated for no reason in your mind? And I think every single one of them is going to give you a list. It's
a really simple task and challenge for anyone listening to this. Just
even ask
a couple of your employees, just see what happens.
I know that mine will just tell me things they don't want to do. They're like, oh, that's complicated. That's not complicated. You just don't want to do it.
Well, so this is a little bit of a segue. So, Billy, you guys have a webinar coming up. Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we start wrapping up here?
Sure. So I'm going to do a live webinar, if you don't mind putting that up there, so that everybody can see where we're going. And I'm going to be doing it, I believe it's for Contractor Magazine. I'm doing a live webinar here pretty soon. And basically, we're going to just get down and really talk about more granular than we can today. Today we're just giving you very high level, easy things to work on. But we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds in this webinar coming up here in the near future. There's the hot link. I can't actually see the date of when it's going to be and all that unless I open up
November 2nd.
November 2nd.
So it's November 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
2 p.m. Eastern time. If you just take this link and copy it here, you'll be able to get into the weeds with me a little bit more and talk about the efficiency, creating efficiency in your business and simplicity. And these things create it just as a byproduct. You create culture. This is really how you create culture.
It works
when you get
more fun
everybody
then.
aligned. And
it's just complicated. It's fun.
Yeah, you can work on culture without even working on it. It's just by simplifying your business and making everybody's job a little bit easier, not so complicated to where their hair's on fire every day. Would you agree with that? And is that why you don't have any hair, Tersh? Because your hair was on fire every day running these businesses?
The exact reason I don't have hair. That's why I'm bald.
Yeah, and so we got to get away from that. Every single day it is a torture to run these companies. It's so hard, and the hair is on fire all day. And there is a better way. I promise you. You can come to Billy Go anytime you want. You are welcome to come. Anybody that's listening to this, you can fly in. We are literally 7 minutes from the airport, in Grapevine, right there in DFW.
The next time I get stuck in Dallas because American Airlines sticks me in Dallas for 2 days, I'm just going to come stay at Billy Go. the whole time.
You can. Yeah, if you got a layover for a couple hours, you got plenty of time to come over and see it. But the thing about it that you're going to see is you're going to see silence. You're going to see this business doing, $1 million a month on the average every month. And it's like it's not like a business is even existing. Everything is calm. Everybody's hanging out doing their thing. There's no fire drills. It's organized and it's easy to use. So come by, come check us out. Let us know when you're coming, or don't let us know when you're coming, and walk in and listen and walk around. We don't care.
Like,
Just come in and see.
This bald-headed dude, he's wearing a suit. He's
been wandering around for a couple days.
You need to call the police.
I don't think it's a suit that'll make us call. It's those fancy shoes you wear with no socks. Now that's the one I don't understand.
Yeah, I got him on right now.
This is exactly what we're showing you, and any one of our employees have the time to stop what they're doing and talk to you. So just come in unannounced. We don't care. Just go in, and the first person you see, start asking them questions, because they can actually stop what they're doing and answer any of your questions that you want. There is no situation where we have our hair on fire, and that's what we're trying to help everybody do here.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
I love that.
We really appreciate y'all hanging out with us, Landon and Billy. As always, we love hanging out with you. So, any events that coming up that y'all are going to be at that if somebody wants to meet you in person and they're not in Dallas?
So I've got 2 major events that are happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I will be at Service World in Tampa Bay, and I'll be there the entire time. I'll be at our booth there. It's our first time to ever have a booth at Service World, and we'll have plenty of folks there to give you a good look at what we're doing with our software, and we can talk about things like today, anything that you want to talk about while we're there. I'm available. I'll be there, and then I'm going to take a quick flight over from Vegas. I actually have a small workshop that I'm doing at Service World at 4:30 on Thursday, and I've got to be in Vegas the same night. So I gotta.
That's gonna be fun.
I think Ken's gonna let me borrow his jet. I haven't asked him yet.
That's what I was gonna say. Yep.
I'm
Landon's
just
gonna
put that out there, see if Landon can help me out a little bit. But anyway, yeah, I've got a jet over to Vegas, and then I'm going to be doing the Service Rocket event. It's a new event. It's the second year, and hopefully that is even bigger and better than it was last year. It was amazing.
That's where
event.
The first time we met in person.
That's where I met you guys. That's
It was right after wasn't it right after EGIA last year? Or was it right after Service World?
Yeah, it was basically they were back to back in Vegas together.
So many events.
And one of the things, I've got a presentation that I'm going to do there. Instead of me standing up there and talking a bunch of stuff, I'm bringing a couple of companies are coming, and they're bringing their technicians and managers, and they're going to tell you the story themselves. You don't have to hear it from me. You're going to hear it from the people that have actually been through this process and what it's done for their companies. And all of these companies were struggling, and one of them was a franchise company. And the average sale was about $700,000 a year for the franchises. And I want them to tell you what that number is now. And I guarantee you it's way more than that. And the money that these companies are making. And it's amazing how quickly this happens. It's just getting it organized.
Awesome. Landon, are you going to be floating around at all?
Yeah, I'm going to be floating around. I'll be floating around at the Service World event as well in Tampa. And so I'm sure I'll stop by Billy's booth, check out what he's doing over there with the Sarah folks. But if anybody wants to, buy me a round of drinks at the bar,
I heard you were buying. I heard you were buying around for the whole place.
That's what I'm thinking.
He's retired. He doesn't have that extra income to buy drinks now.
So he's not old enough for Social Security. So
yeah, you got to wait for his Social Security. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I was in your shoe once when I was that age. So
I do want to add before we close out, because we got a lot of good comments rolling in here. If this was valuable to you guys, as Tersh always says on these podcast episodes, it's free to listen to. Obviously, our goal is to continue to try to bring high-level information to your businesses. In order for us to do that, review us on Apple, review us on Spotify. Those things are really helpful for us. the comments here really, the comments, 5-star only. If you get a 1-star, Tersh is, I don't know what Tersh is going to do. He's going to do something bad. But comment like this, get involved, ask questions. I mean, it's great. I love this. Energizes us more than anything. Like these episodes where people are commenting are fun.
To help. There's so much involvement and help in our community. So don't be afraid to ask questions, honestly, because we've all been there. We've all had questions, and there's been people who have helped answer them. So
yeah, I'm love to help anybody answer any questions as well. Reach out to me in social media. Billy also, I know same thing. He probably has to figure out how to use social media. He's a little older. But send me a message. Go to the Einstein's group. A lot of people on there, thousands of people there, answer questions like all over social media. So feel free to reach out at any time. And I'm up at odd hours, so I might respond at odd hours, but I'm always here to help.
We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us on. And like I said to you guys before the show, I'm just super excited that we got Landon out of his basement and out in the real world and getting a little sun and, actually getting out and being seen and people hearing his voice for the first time. I think this is a lot of fun and I appreciate it. We had a great time today.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.